The sun was setting behind the Colorado mountains as Jack Preston checked his equipment one more time. The small device in his hands had been beeping steadily for 3 days now. At first he thought it was broken, but Jack had built the detector himself, and he knew his work wasn't faulty. "Something's up there," he muttered to himself, adjusting the knobs on his homemade scanner. Jack was 52 years old with graying hair and weathered skin from years spent outdoors. After 20 years working for the military as an engineer, he had retired to this quiet mountain cabin to pursue his own projects. Most of those projects involved scanning the skies. His friends in town called him crazy. They laughed when he talked about signals from space or unusual energy patterns in the atmosphere, but Jack didn't care. He had seen enough strange things during his military career to know that the universe held secrets most people couldn't imagine. The beeping from his device grew faster as he hiked up the narrow mountain trail. The evening air was cool against. His face and his breath formed small clouds in front of him. His backpack contained water, some food, basic tools, and a first aid kit. Jack always came prepared. As he reached a small clearing near the top of the ridge, the detector went wild. The steady beeping became a constant tone. "Bingo," Jack whispered, looking around carefully. At first he saw nothing unusual, just trees, rocks, and the darkening sky above. But then he noticed it, a slight shimmer in the air about 50 yards ahead. It was like looking through heat waves rising from hot pavement, except it was much colder now. Jack approached slowly. The shimmer seemed to have a definite shape, roughly oval and large enough to hold a small building. He had seen cloaking technology concepts during his time in the military, but nothing this advanced had ever been made public. "I know you're there," he called out, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the air rippled and the cloaking field dropped. Jack found himself staring at a sleek metallic craft about the size of a small house. Its surface gleamed with a bluish tint in the fading light. Jack didn't run. He didn't scream. Instead, a slow smile spread across his face. "Beautiful," he said, walking closer. A section of the craft's side slid open smoothly. Jack stopped about 20 feet away, watching as figures emerged from the opening. They were humanoid, but clearly not human. Their skin was pale blue, and they stood slightly taller than the average person. Their eyes were large and entirely black, without visible pupils. 5 of the beings stepped out. 4 of them carried devices that Jack immediately recognized as weapons, though unlike any he had ever seen. The 5th one, wearing some kind of decorated vest, seemed to be in charge. "Hello there," Jack called out, still moving forward at a steady pace. "I've been waiting my whole life to meet you folks." The beings looked at each other, seemingly confused by his reaction. The leader made a series of clicking sounds and the others raised their weapons. Jack kept walking forward, his hands open at his sides to show he carried no weapons. "My name's Jack Preston. Welcome to Earth." The leader pointed at Jack and made another clicking sound. One of the beings fired its weapon. A beam of pale blue light struck Jack directly in the chest. It felt like being hit with static electricity all over his body. Uncomfortable but not painful. He staggered slightly, then regained his balance. "That tickles," Jack said, laughing softly. "Is that how you say hello where you come from?" The beings stared at him, their large black eyes blinking rapidly. The one who had fired looked down at its weapon, then back at Jack. It adjusted something on the device and fired again. This time the beam was brighter, and the impact knocked Jack back a step. It felt like being shocked by a faulty electrical outlet. Definitely unpleasant, but not enough to stop him. "Okay, that one had a bit more kick to it," Jack said, rolling his shoulders. "But I've been zapped by worse in my workshop." The leader made an urgent series of clicks and chirps. All 4 of the weapon carriers fired at once. The combined beams hit Jack like a strong wind. His hair stood on end, and his skin tingled painfully all over. For a moment, his vision blurred, but then, remarkably, the sensation faded. Jack took a deep breath and straightened up. "Now that," he said, "was impressive. Some kind of directed energy weapon, right? The efficiency must be incredible. Is it plasma-based or something else?" The blue beings retreated slightly, conferring among themselves with rapid clicks and chirps. Jack used the moment to move closer, now just 10 feet from the nearest one. "Look," he said, "I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm an engineer. I've spent my life studying energy systems. I just want to talk." The leader stepped forward cautiously. It reached into a pocket on its vest and pulled out a small device which it pointed at Jack. A soft humming sound filled the air. Jack stood still, allowing himself to be scanned. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." After a moment, the leader lowered the device and made a different sound. Lower pitched, almost musical. The others lowered their weapons. "That's better," Jack said. "Now, do you folks speak English, or do we need to figure out another way to communicate?" The leader touched a small badge on its chest. When it opened its mouth again, the clicks were accompanied by words in a mechanical voice. "Human resistant to stun weapons. Unprecedented. You will come with us for study." Jack grinned widely. "Study? You mean I get to see inside your ship? Lead the way." The blue beings looked at each other again, clearly puzzled by his enthusiasm. The leader gestured toward the open doorway of the craft. As Jack walked toward the ship between two of the armed beings, he noticed small details about their technology: the seamless joins in their craft's hull, the subtle glow from their weapons, the lightweight material of their clothing that seemed to shift color slightly as they moved. "I have so many questions," Jack said as they approached the entrance. "Where are you from? How long have you been watching Earth? What kind of propulsion system does this beauty use?" The leader paused at the entrance to the craft. "You show no fear. All other humans we have encountered displayed extreme fear response." Jack shrugged. "I'm curious, not scared. Been waiting 60 years to meet folks from another world. Besides, if you wanted to hurt me, those energy weapons of yours would have done more than just tingle a bit." As he stepped into the alien craft, Jack felt a sense of wonder he hadn't experienced since he was a child. The interior glowed with soft light that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Displays with unknown symbols floated in the air without any visible screens. "Magnificent," he whispered. The door slid closed behind him with a soft hiss, sealing Jack Preston inside the alien vessel. But rather than feeling trapped, he felt like he was finally exactly where he belonged. Commander Viltak watched the human through the observation screen with growing concern. His long blue fingers tapped against the control panel as the ship's computer analyzed the scan results. "This makes no sense," he said to Chief Scientist Renla. The stun weapons had no lasting effect on him. Renla adjusted her viewing lens and studied the data. "His cellular structure is absorbing the energy somehow. I have never seen anything like it." Inside the examination room, Jack Preston sat comfortably on a bench. He showed no signs of distress. Instead, he looked around with obvious interest, examining every detail of the alien technology surrounding him. One of the blue beings, shorter than the others and wearing a different uniform, entered the room. It carried a small device that glowed softly. "Hello again," Jack said cheerfully. "I'm Jack. Do you have a name I could pronounce?" The alien touched the translator badge on its chest. "I am Officer Krell. I am in charge of security on this vessel." "Nice to meet you, Krell. Any chance of getting some coffee? Or whatever you folks drink?" Krell tilted his head. "You wish for refreshment? You are not afraid?" Jack laughed. "Why would I be afraid? This is the most exciting day of my life. I've been searching the skies for proof of alien life since I was 10 years old. Most humans panic when they see us. We must use memory erasure protocols." Jack frowned at that. "You've met humans before, and you just erase their memories? That's not very neighborly." Krell seemed confused by Jack's response. "It is standard procedure for primitive species contact." "Primitive? I might take offense to that if I wasn't sitting in this amazing ship of yours." Jack leaned forward. "So what happens now? Are you going to probe me or something? That's what all our movies suggest aliens do." "We have completed our scans. No invasive procedures are necessary." Krell paused. "I must ask, why did our weapons not affect you?" Jack shrugged. "I worked with experimental energy systems for 20 years. Had more accidents than I can count. Got zapped so many times my buddies used to joke that I was part lightning rod. Guess I built up some resistance. Pointed to a faint scar on his left hand. This one was from an electromagnetic pulse generator that backfired. And this one, he rolled up his sleeve to show a larger scar on his forearm, came from a plasma containment field that collapsed. Nearly lost the arm. After stuff like that, your little zap guns don't seem so bad. In the observation room, Commander, Viltok turned to Renla. Is this possible? Can humans develop resistance to energy weapons? Unknown, Renla replied. We have never encountered this before, but the scan results are clear. His cells show signs of previous exposure to similar energy patterns. They have adapted. Back in the examination room, Jack was talking animatedly. So I've been thinking about your weapons. That blue energy beam. It's some kind of directed neural disruptor, right? Overloads the nervous system temporarily. Krell's large black eyes blinked rapidly. That is, correct. How do you know this? Just an educated guess. We have similar concepts on Earth, just not as advanced. Jack stood up and walked around the room examining the smooth walls. The efficiency must be incredible. Our power sources can't generate that kind of focused energy in such a small package. Please sit down, Krell said, suddenly alert. Sorry, Jack said, raising his hands and returning to the bench. Just curious. Engineer's habit. Always want to see how things work. Krell seemed to relax slightly. Your curiosity is unusual. Most specimens show fear first. There's that. Word again, specimens. Look, I'd prefer if you called me Jack, or at least human if you need to be formal. Very well, Jack, I have been instructed to ask you questions. Fair enough. I have plenty for you too. Maybe we can take turns? In the observation room, Commander Viltok made a decision. I will speak with this human directly. Its behavior is too abnormal. We need to understand if it represents a new human subspecies or an individual anomaly. Renla looked concerned. Is that wise, Commander? We know so little about this variant. He has shown no aggression, only curiosity. And if our weapons have little effect, keeping distance provides no additional security. The door to the examination room slid open and Commander Viltok entered. He was taller than Krell, with deeper blue skin and elaborate markings on his face. His uniform bore several insignia that even Jack could recognize as signs of rank. Jack stood up respectfully. Hello there. You must be the boss. I am Commander Viltok of the Zenithar research vessel Horizon Light. You are aboard my ship. Honored to meet you, Commander. Jack Preston, former U.S. military engineer, current retiree and amateur astronomer. Jack extended his hand, then realized the gesture might not translate. That's a handshake, a human greeting. The commander looked at Jack's outstretched hand with caution, then slowly extended his own. Jack gently shook it. Your skin is warmer than ours, Viltok observed. Different biology, I guess, Jack replied. So, Zenithar, is that your species or your organization? Both. We are the Zenithar Collective from the third planet of the star you call Tau Ceti. Jack's eyes widened. Tau Ceti? That's only 12 light years from Earth. You're practically neighbors. By galactic standards, yes. We have been studying your world for over 200 of your years. Jack whistled. 200 years? That's since before we had electricity. You've been watching us grow up? Indeed. Your species develops quickly. Too quickly, some believe. Jack's expression grew serious. Is that why you're here? To decide if we're a threat? Commander Viltok's face showed surprise, or at least Jack thought it did. Alien expressions were hard to read. You are perceptive, Jack Preston. Yes, there is concern about human development patterns. Your technology advances rapidly, but your social structures remain volatile. Jack nodded slowly. Can't argue with that assessment. We're a mess sometimes, but we're trying to be better. This is why we observe rather than contact, until incidents like today occur. Speaking of which, Jack said, what happens now? Are you going to zap my memory and drop me back in the woods? That was the protocol, Viltok admitted. but you have proven resistant to our standard procedures, and you present an unusual opportunity for direct dialogue. Jack smiled broadly. Great. I have about 1,000,000 questions about your propulsion system alone, and we have questions for you as well, Jack Preston. Many questions about this immunity you possess. Tell you what, Jack said. How about we make a deal? I'll answer your questions if you answer mine. Fair exchange of information between neighbors. Commander Viltok considered this for a moment, then made a gesture that might have been agreement. Very well. We will begin with your unusual resilience to our technology. Chief Scientist Ren La will join us shortly for this discussion. As the commander spoke into his communication device, Jack looked around the room again with renewed excitement. This wasn't just first contact. This was the beginning of a conversation he had been waiting his entire life to have. 2 days passed aboard the Zenithar vessel. Jack Preston was given comfortable quarters with a bed that adjusted to his body shape and temperature. The food was strange. Colorless cubes that tasted like different Earth foods depending on how you thought about them. But Jack didn't mind. The opportunity to learn about alien technology was worth any small discomfort. Chief Scientist Renla spent hours questioning Jack about his work with energy systems. Jack tried to explain the projects he had worked on, drawing diagrams when words failed. So the electromagnetic pulse generator was designed to temporarily disable electronic equipment, he explained, sketching on a strange pad that captured his drawings in glowing blue lines. But the power regulation was tricky. One day it overloaded. While I was adjusting it and I took the full discharge, Renla made notes on her own device. And you recovered without medical intervention? Well, I was in the hospital for 3 days, but the doctors were mainly surprised I wasn't dead. Jack chuckled. After that, my hair stood up in storms for about a year. Despite the friendly conversations, Jack noticed certain areas of the ship were off limits. Whenever he asked about the propulsion system or weapons technology, the Zenithar would change the subject. They were happy to discuss their culture, their homeworld, and even basic science, but anything that might give humans a technological advantage was carefully avoided. On the 3rd day, Jack decided it was time to see more of the ship. He wasn't trying to steal secrets. He just couldn't stand not knowing how things worked. His natural curiosity was too strong. When the lights dimmed for the night cycle, Jack examined the door to his quarters. He had been watching carefully, each time the Zenithar escorted him to and from the research lab. The locking mechanism seemed to respond to both a physical keycard and some kind of energy signature. During his sessions in the lab, Jack had managed to pocket a few small components. Nothing important, just scraps from a repair project Renla was working on. Now he assembled these pieces into a crude device that might disrupt the energy field around his door. Let's see if this works, he muttered, pressing his makeshift tool against the door panel. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the panel flickered, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Jack peeked into the corridor. Empty. He slipped out, closing the door behind him. The ship's corridors were dimly lit during the night cycle, with soft blue lights running along the floor. Jack moved quietly, trying to remember the path to the research lab. From there, he thought he could find his way to the engineering section. He passed several closed doors, pausing at each one to listen for any sound. The ship was eerily quiet. Jack wondered how many Zenithar were aboard. He had seen only about a dozen different individuals during his stay. At an intersection, Jack hesitated. Left would take him toward the research lab, but right led to an area he had never visited. Curiosity won out. He turned right. The corridor sloped gently downward, curving as it went. The walls here had a different texture, slightly rough, almost like stone. Jack ran his fingers along them as he walked. He came to a large door marked with symbols he couldn't read. But one symbol he recognized from Renla's notes. It was related to power generation. Bingo, Jack whispered. The door had the same kind of lock as his quarters. Jack applied his device, and after a moment the door slid open. Inside was a vast chamber that took Jack's breath away. In the center floated what looked like a small star, a sphere of swirling energy contained within a complex network of translucent barriers. Around it, smaller energy conduits branched out like arteries from a heart, pulsing with blue light. The power core, Jack said in awe. Beautiful. He stepped into the room, his eyes adjusting to the bright light of the core. The air hummed with energy that made his skin tingle, not unlike the sensation of the stun weapons, but gentler. As he moved closer to examine the design, Jack noticed something about the conduits. They joined the containment field at angles that seemed inefficient. If they were repositioned slightly, the energy flow would be smoother. Interesting design choice, he murmured, pulling a small notepad from his pocket. He began sketching the system, making notes about possible improvements. So absorbed was he in his work that Jack didn't notice the door opening behind him. Human Preston, you should not be here. Jack turned to find Officer Krell and 2 security personnel, all holding their weapons ready. Hey there, Krell. Just doing a little late-night exploring. Jack held up his hands to show he meant no harm. This power core of yours is remarkable. How did you leave your quarters? Krell demanded, moving closer. Jack shrugged. Engineer's tricks. Look, I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I just wanted to see how things worked. Krell gestured to the other officers. Return the human to his quarters, use full restraints. Is that really necessary? Jack asked as the officers approached. I'm just looking. I haven't touched anything. Instead of answering, Krell raised his weapon and fired. The blue energy beam hit Jack directly in the chest, stronger than the previous shots had been. Jack staggered backward, grimacing in pain. This one hurt more than the others, but after a moment he straightened up again. That's getting old, Krell, he said, his voice strained but steady. Can we talk about this like reasonable beings? Krell's large eyes widened in shock. He adjusted his weapon and fired again, joined by the other 2 officers. 3 beams hit Jack simultaneously. He fell to one knee, his body shaking with the effort to stay conscious. Sweat broke out on his forehead, but remarkably he pushed himself back to his feet. Please, he gasped. Stop shooting me. The security officers looked at each other in confusion. One of them spoke rapidly to Krell in their native language. Krell lowered his weapon slightly. What are you? He asked Jack. Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. Just a curious human who's been zapped too many times in his life. He held up the notepad. I've been making notes about your power distribution system. It's brilliant, but I think it could be more efficient. Krell hesitated, then took the notepad. He studied Jack's drawings with obvious surprise. These modifications, Krell began, would increase efficiency by about 12%, Jack finished. The conduit angles are creating resistance. If you adjusted them to these positions, the energy would flow more freely. Before Krell could respond, a voice came from the doorway. What is happening here? Commander Viltok entered, looking from Jack to the security team with alarm. Krell straightened up. The human escaped his quarters and accessed the power core, Commander. We attempted to subdue him, but I'm still standing, Jack said, weakly. Though I might not be for much longer. That last round packed a punch. Viltok took the notepad from Krell and examined it. His expression changed from anger to curiosity. You understand our power systems? He asked Jack. The basics? Yes. Energy is energy, whether it's on Earth or Tau Ceti. Some principles are universal. Jack gestured toward the glowing core. It's like nothing I've ever seen, but I can still recognize efficiency problems when I see them. Commander Viltok studied Jack for a long moment, then he turned to Krell. Escort him to the medical bay, not his quarters, and no more weapons fire. It clearly has limited effect and might be causing cumulative damage we cannot detect. As the security officers moved to either side of Jack, he smiled despite his exhaustion. Does this mean I'm not in trouble? He asked. That, said Commander Viltok, remains to be seen. In the medical bay, a Zenithar doctor with light green markings on her blue face examined Jack thoroughly. She used devices that hummed and glowed as they passed over his body. Jack lay still, feeling drained after the multiple stun blasts he had endured. His cellular structure is unlike our previous human subjects, the doctor told Commander Viltak. The energy weapons have altered him at a basic level. Jack raised an eyebrow. Altered me? What does that mean? The doctor hesitated, looking to Viltak for permission to continue. The commander nodded. Your cells appear to absorb and store energy, she explained. Each exposure has strengthened this ability, but there is a limit. Too much more could cause permanent damage. Jack thought about this. So, I'm like a battery that's getting overcharged? A crude but accurate comparison, the doctor agreed. Commander Viltak dismissed the doctor and pulled up a seat next to Jack's medical bed. Your notes on our power core were interesting. Jack tried to sit up, wincing at the effort. The design is brilliant, but the energy flow isn't optimized. I could help you improve it. Why would you offer to help us? We have effectively imprisoned you, Jack shrugged. I don't see it that way. You're explorers, not conquerors. If you wanted to harm Earth, you would have done it long ago. He gestured around the room. Besides, I'm getting room and board and the chance to see technology centuries ahead of ours. It's a fair trade. Viltak studied Jack with his large black eyes. You are unlike any human we have encountered before. Not just physically, but in your thinking. I'm just curious, Jack said. Always have been. More interested in how things work than in who owns them. After a long moment, Viltak came to a decision. We will test your ideas about the power core. If they prove valuable, we may consider a more formal exchange of knowledge. Jack smiled broadly. That's all I'm asking for. Back on Earth, strange readings were appearing on multiple monitoring systems. At a military observatory not far from Jack's mountain home, Lieutenant Alan Howard stared at his computer screen with growing concern. Sir, we've got unusual electromagnetic activity in Section 7, he reported to his superior, Colonel Frank Daniels. It's been increasing for the past 3 days. Colonel Daniels leaned over to look at the readings. Natural or artificial? Definitely artificial, sir. The pattern is too regular, and it matches nothing in our database. The colonel frowned. Location: the mountains about 12 miles west of Pikes Peak. Very remote area. Any settlements there? Lieutenant Howard checked another screen. Just one registered resident, a Jack Preston, former military engineer retired about 10 years ago. Preston? Colonel Daniels's eyes narrowed. I know that name. He worked on some classified projects back in the day. Brilliant, but always pushing boundaries. Should we send a team to investigate, sir? The colonel considered this. Not yet. But keep monitoring. If the readings increase or change pattern, alert me immediately. Meanwhile, aboard the Zenithar ship, Jack had been given limited access to the engineering deck. Under Renla's supervision, he was allowed to observe as technicians implemented some of his suggestions for the power core. The conduit angle changes are showing positive results, Renla reported, reviewing data on a floating display. Energy efficiency has increased by 9% already. Jack nodded, studying the readouts. That's good, but we can do better. The secondary conduits still need adjustment. Renla made some notes. Your understanding of our technology is remarkable, for a human. Basic principles are often universal, Jack replied. Energy seeks the path of least resistance, whether it's on Earth or across the galaxy. A young technician approached them with a datapad. Chief Scientist, we have detected unusual signal patterns from the planet's surface. They appear to be scanning this region. Renla took the pad and frowned. Military search patterns. They may have detected our presence despite the cloaking field. Jack looked over her shoulder at the display. That's an EM band sweep, standard procedure when something unusual is detected. He pointed to a particular pattern. I recognize this sequence. It's from a system I helped design years ago. Your people are looking for us, Renla asked, concerned. Not specifically, but they've noticed something odd in the area. Jack thought for a moment. The power core modifications might be causing detectable fluctuations in your cloaking field. Commander Viltak joined them, his face serious. If we have been detected, protocol requires immediate departure from this location. Wait, Jack said quickly. I might be able to help. I know how those scanning systems work. I could suggest modifications to your cloaking field that would make it invisible to our technology. Viltak and Renla exchanged glances. That would be valuable information, Renla admitted. But it would also mean giving a human knowledge of our defensive systems, Viltak countered. Jack spread his hands. Look, I'm not interested in military applications. I just want to continue our work here without interruption. If Earth's military shows up, this first contact scenario goes from scientific exchange to potential conflict. After a tense discussion in their own language, the Zenithar leaders agreed to let Jack see the cloaking system specifications. The cloaking technology was far beyond Earth's capabilities, but Jack could see where its energy signature might be, detectable to specific Earth instruments. He spent hours working with Renla to modify the field, adjusting its frequency to avoid detection. This should work, he said finally, rubbing his tired eyes. The field will now oscillate between frequencies, too quickly for Earth sensors to lock on. As they implemented the changes, a new alert came in. A Zenithar scout reported that a small military team had been dispatched to the area. They will arrive in approximately 6 of your Earth hours, Viltak told Jack. Will your modifications be operational by then? Renla asked. Jack checked the progress readout. It's going to be close. The system needs time to stabilize with the new settings. If we are discovered, Viltak said gravely, we will have no choice but to leave Earth orbit immediately. Jack felt a pang of disappointment at the thought. He had learned so much in his short time aboard the ship, but there was still so much more to discover. There might be another option, he said slowly. What if I went down there and spoke to them? I know some of the people who might be on that team. They might listen to me. Viltak looked skeptical. And tell them what? That you have been assisting aliens? I'll tell them I've been conducting private experiments that cause the unusual. Readings. It's not even a complete lie. I have been experimenting up here, just not alone. Renla looked to Viltak. It could work. And it would allow us to complete the cloaking modifications without rushing. The commander considered the options. Very well. But if you reveal our presence, we will be forced to leave and to take you with us. For security reasons, Jack nodded, understanding the implied threat. I won't let you down, but I'll need some of my personal items from my cabin to make the story convincing. As Jack prepared to return to Earth temporarily, he realized how strange his priorities had become. A week ago, his greatest wish was to prove the existence of alien life. Now he was actively helping to keep it secret. But the exchange of knowledge was too valuable to risk. Humanity wasn't ready for this contact, not yet. The Zenithar prepared a small transport vessel to take Jack back to his cabin. Before he boarded, Renla approached him. Be careful, Jack Preston, she said, and return quickly. Your work here is not yet complete. Jack smiled. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. Seeing her confusion, he added, that means I'll definitely be back. The small Zenithar transport vessel landed silently near Jack's cabin in the pre-dawn light. Jack stepped out, feeling strange to be back on Earth after his time aboard the alien ship. The familiar smell of pine trees and mountain air welcomed him home. I will return for you in 12 Earth hours, the Zenithar pilot told him. The cloaking modifications should be complete by then. Jack nodded. I'll handle the military team. Just make sure that ship stays invisible. As the transport vessel disappeared back into the sky, Jack hurried into his cabin. He had work to do before the military arrived. First, he gathered his old equipment, the homemade scanners and detectors he had built over the years. Then he set up a small experiment in his workshop that would create electromagnetic readings similar to what the military had detected. This should be convincing enough, he muttered, adjusting the frequency on a modified radio transmitter. He had just finished when he heard vehicles approaching. Jack took a deep breath and stepped outside to greet his visitors. 2 military jeeps pulled up in front of his cabin. 4 soldiers jumped out, followed by a man Jack recognized immediately, Colonel Frank Daniels, his former commanding officer. Jack Preston, the colonel said, removing his sunglasses. "Why am I not surprised to find you at the center of this mystery?" Jack smiled and extended his hand. "Frank, it's been what, 10 years? You're looking good." The colonel shook his hand firmly. "Cut the small talk, Preston. We've been picking up some very unusual readings from this area. Care to explain?" Jack gestured toward his cabin. "Just some experiments I've been working on. Come in. I'll show you." Inside, Jack led them to his workshop. Lieutenant Howard immediately began taking readings with a handheld device. "Sir, I'm detecting the same energy signature we picked up at the base, but stronger," he reported. Colonel Daniels looked at Jack with suspicion. "What exactly are you doing up here, Preston?" Jack launched into a detailed explanation of a theoretical energy system he claimed to be developing. He used enough technical jargon to sound convincing while being vague about the specifics. As he spoke, he activated various pieces of equipment to create impressive displays of light and sound. "So this modified electromagnetic field generator is what you've been detecting," Jack concluded, pointing to the device he had prepared. "Sorry about that. I didn't realize it would register on military scanners." The colonel frowned. "This doesn't look like any government-approved project I'm aware of." Jack shrugged. "It's not. I'm retired, remember. This is personal research. Using technology that looks remarkably similar to classified systems you worked on for the military," Colonel Daniels pointed out. "Similar principles, yes. But my designs have moved beyond those early prototypes." Jack kept his voice casual, though his heart was racing. "Look, Frank, I'm just an old engineer tinkering in retirement. Nothing sinister going on here." "Lieutenant." Howard approached with his scanner. "Sir, I'm also detecting traces of an unknown radiation, unlike anything in our database." Jack's mind worked quickly. "That would be from the new power source I'm testing. It's based on theoretical particles that haven't been officially documented yet." Colonel Daniels didn't look convinced. "Preston, you know unauthorized experiments with potential military applications are against federal regulations." "Military applications?" "This is clean energy research, Frank. I'm trying to solve problems, not create weapons." The standoff was interrupted by a sudden beeping from Lieutenant Howard's scanner. "Sir, massive energy spike about half a mile north of here." Jack knew immediately what was happening. The Zenithar ship was implementing the cloaking modifications, causing a temporary surge before the new system stabilized. He needed to distract the military team. "That's probably my field sensor array," he said quickly. "I have equipment set up throughout these woods I can show you, but we'll need to hike there." Colonel Daniels hesitated, then nodded. "Lead the way, Preston, but no tricks." Jack led the group through the forest, deliberately taking a path away from the ship's actual location. As they walked, he kept talking, explaining his fictional research project in exhausting detail. He was buying time for the Zenithar to complete their modifications. After an hour of hiking to a small clearing, where Jack had once set up weather monitoring equipment, Lieutenant Howard checked his scanner again. "The readings have stopped, sir. Whatever caused that spike is no longer active." Jack smiled inwardly. The cloaking modifications had worked. The ship was now invisible to Earth's technology. Colonel Daniels looked around the clearing with narrowed eyes. "I feel like you're not telling us everything, Preston." Jack put on his most innocent expression. "I've shown you my equipment and explained my research. What more do you want?" After another hour of questioning and scanning the area, the colonel finally gave up. "We'll be monitoring this region closely, Preston. Any more unusual readings and we'll be back, with a proper scientific team and paperwork. My door's always open, Frank, and I'd welcome the scientific input." As the military team departed, Jack let out a long breath of relief. He had managed to divert their attention, at least for now. He looked up at the clear blue sky, knowing the Zenithar ship was still there, watching and waiting. That evening, as promised, the transport vessel returned. Jack had packed a small bag with clothes and personal items. He had decided to accept the Zenithar's offer to continue working with them. Earth wasn't ready for official first contact, but he could serve as an unofficial ambassador, learning their technology and preparing humanity for the day when contact would become inevitable. As he boarded the small vessel, the pilot looked at him curiously. "You are leaving your home to return with us?" Jack nodded. "My work there is finished. My work with you is just beginning." When Jack returned to the main ship, he found Commander Viltak waiting for him. "The military team has departed?" "Yes, and they won't be back for a while. The cloaking modifications worked perfectly." Viltak seemed pleased. "Your actions have preserved the security of our mission. The High Council has been informed of your assistance." "What did they say?" Jack asked. "They are intrigued. A human who resists our weapons and understands our technology is unprecedented. They have authorized a new protocol for this situation." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What kind of protocol?" "A knowledge exchange program. You will share information about human physiology and earth sciences. We will share selected technological insights that will not disrupt your planet's natural development." Jack could hardly believe what he was hearing. This was beyond his wildest dreams. "I accept, but on one condition." Viltak tilted his head. "What condition?" "I want to bring a human scientist on board, someone who can verify my findings and help with the exchange. 2 heads are better than 1, as we say on Earth." The commander considered this request. "This would be highly unusual. Who do you propose?" Jack smiled. "I have someone in mind. A brilliant physicist named Dr. Susan Miller. She's been researching energy patterns that might have already detected your presence without realizing it. She has the knowledge and the open mind needed for this kind of first contact." After lengthy discussions with the Zenithar High Council, Jack's request was approved. A new chapter was about to begin. Not just for Jack Preston, but potentially for all of humanity. The Zenithar had fired at a human, and he had laughed and kept advancing. Now that human would help bridge the gap between 2 worlds. As the ship prepared to relocate to a new observation position, Jack stood by the viewing port watching his home planet grow smaller below them. He thought about all the humans who had dreamed of this moment, of contact with an alien civilization. He was living that dream, not as a frightened abductee, but as a partner and pioneer. "Ready for the next step?" Renla asked, joining him at the port. Jack nodded, smiling. "I've been ready my whole life.